My name is Neil. I'm an orthodontist. Nice to meet you all virtually. And I'm kind of an odd bird, right? So I really didn't understand what I wanted to do when I was graduating orthodontics, but I did know that I wanted to do craniofacial because I worked here at the I was a resident in orthodontics, which is right next to the craniofacial center. So this has a large influence on how I developed as a professional, if you will. And two of my five board cases were craniofacial double jaw surgeries. And I was just so struck by how I was able to change someone's life that I thought, like, okay, I really want to do this for a living. Unfortunately, when I applied for the job, the guy that was here wasn't really open to any help. So I got denied. But I was kind of persistent. So the next year I was lucky enough to get hired on at the University of Chicago across town to do the craniofacial job there. And I was there to 2006. And then at that point, they got out of dentistry. Just they let the whole dental team go because they didn't think that it made sense to mix that with medicine. Not quite sure why, but so I was still in the craniofacial world because I had all these cleft kids in my practice. And one of my kids, the mom said to a surgeon when they were here at the UIC Craniofacial Center, I guess it was a bad day. It wasn't running well. And she's like, you need my orthodontist to come here and fix this place. Well, one thing led to another, and I'm still here. So almost, probably 14, 15 years here at UIC running the orthodontics, but more so, I just have on any given day, I'm doing one of three jobs. I'm either in my private practice just doing orthodontics. I'm here at the university in our university practice, or I could be out lecturing. So it's all good. And, and I've been a key opinion leader on various things. So, but one of the things that's really very quick to grow right now, is clear aligner therapy, right? And we know that probably this is an off number, but about 40% of all cases starting right now are clear aligners. And, in 1999, when I was starting up with Invisalign, clear aligners didn't exist, right? So in my professional career, it has grown into probably the most aggressively growing thing that I'm seeing in dentistry, right? Other than maybe implants, but implants have kind of stopped this aggressive growth vector, but clear aligner therapy is really taking off right now. Back in COVID, the clear aligner industry in the United States is about $1 billion, about $1.3 billion. This year, it's between 4 and 5 billion. It could be anywhere between 15 and $30 billion in 2030. So people are paying attention to that. But here's the facts. Look at this slide. Only about half of patients wear their appliances for 22 hours a day. So I think that's really a damning thing to say. People aren't necessarily trustworthy to wear something that's removable. So, so if you're going to really kind of go after a tough case, especially a class 2 case, right? Do you really want them to have to take stuff on and off? I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me at all, right? Now, this year at the show, a couple companies launched different versions of twin blocks on clear aligners. And previous to that, there was the MA Appliance. And previous to that, there was just twin blocks in general. The one thing I will say probably picked up and grew very much in the last 15 to 20 years is the Kyrie Appliance. I think it's pretty clever. I think it's very unique and it works well. But what do you do if you want to fix a full step class 2 retrognathic pattern? I mean, are you going to let the patient be in charge of the case, or are you actually going to try and do something where it's working day and night? Because as well as I do, growing bone is really hard to do. So I think the number one thing that we have to talk about is efficiency, right? And nothing is more efficient than things that are permanent. So when you think about the class 2 market, which is roughly 3 out of 10 cases, it's somewhere between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3, somewhere around 25, 30, 34%, depending on what number you look at from what study. The cases coming in the door are class 2. So if there's 10 million new patients a year, which there are, right, you have to have a different approach for a severe class 2, right? And I'm not even convinced that fixing a class 2 is something that you can do in a single time in someone's life, because you catch them early, it's going to relapse, because the moment you take your stuff off them, if they're a bad grower, they're still a bad grower. So I think you have to have just a really different approach for some of these cases. So to me, this was the thing after finishing over 30,000 cases that really stood out to me. Like, something has to be better here, right? There's something missing, right? So there has to be a better solution, and this is what came out of my head, right? So I wanted a high performance class 2 system, meaning something that actually worked and grew bone, that could be on the teeth full time. And, it was custom, and it would deliver the right amount of force, and it had to be durable, because, anytime you hold something forward, it's very difficult on the appliance. The appliance gets beat up, and it has to integrate with whatever mechanics you want to use, whether it's braces or aligners, right? So I did a lot of, thinking about this, and, wrote a patent with, I had 2 other co-inventors that started it with me, but, and they're really out of it at this point. But the concept here was that we would make something that was more, the term I like to use, and we created 2 words. The first word I'll talk about is called biodynamic, right? This is something that functions like a TMJ. Next slide. So the question was then really like, if we had this new idea, we can actually create this concept, this appliance, right? What kinds of cases are we actually able to treat? And then, how low can we go in terms of age? Can we catch someone early on and do a phase 1 with it versus a phase 2, right? The difference between sometimes a class 2 case and a sleep apnea case, sometimes it's just the age of the patient, right? Like, could you take this concept? Could you even make it possibly removable, so that they can have the effect of it, at least while they're sleeping, without having their teeth move? So can you take this and apply it to someone who's just beyond bad growth, someone who's like genetically altered, like a craniofacial issue? So these were the issues that I was looking at, right? So I'm going to show you a series of 6 cases today, and I want to just state that you're not going to come out of this webinar and say to yourself, I can do this tomorrow, okay? Because that's not our goal. Our goal is, we're presenting a high level interest webinar here. I'm releasing it. We're releasing it because we want feedback, right? I'm not going to learn by doing this myself. And the worst thing that I do is I make things look easy when I do it sometimes. And I don't want people to struggle if they ever try to do this. So our goal is to really kind of show you just cases that didn't conventionally work, and maybe here's another approach, and this is how I would say they would go. So our first case comes from a pediatric practice where they had treated this girl for airway issues mostly, right? And she was in treatment for 52 months. So for you guys who are not good at math, that's over 4 years, okay? And she's class 2 division 1. So when she presented to me, the mom brought her in, and I'll just say that mom is a physician. And the mom said to me, she's like, my daughter's really unhappy. She's had braces for a while. And although they're telling us that, it's successful, that the airway is much better, that's not how my daughter feels. She was very upset about her spaces. Now, this kid was going into 7th grade, and, this is what she looked like when she presented to me. She had spaces, amongst a bunch of teeth. She was missing several teeth. Some of the teeth weren't even normally shaped, and she had 100% overbite. So, my first thought is, okay, here's your ceph taken out of our cone beam. You can see teeth are still erupting. That, the overjet on this case is about 8 or 9 millimeters, which maybe for airway is okay, but not for a 7th grade girl emotionally, right? Next slide. Here's the Panorex. You can see she's missing a bunch of teeth too, right? So I look at this, and right off the bat, I'm thinking, okay, this is ultimately an implant case, right? I got to give this kid self-esteem. I have to consolidate my spaces. I have to figure out a way to give her Pontics. The parents also told me that she really just wants the spaces closed. So the very first thing I did was, okay, like, let's make her a couple clear aligners, and we can at least consolidate the spaces. So we put her through some ULab, and we make some correction on the spaces. And then they had talked with a prosthodontist because, they're going to be doing implants. And the prosthodontist said, hey, I can make her some Maryland bridges. Next slide. So what's cool about this case is this is Casper number 2. This is my second case, right? So I made everything wrong on this case. I am really, really happy to share with you my failures, even though they're successful. But what was important here was you're understanding two things that are really highly important here. So number one is I'm answering the patient's need. I made her an aligner. We're going to paint the pontic spaces and she'll be able to walk around with teeth. And then the other thing is I'm mixing a removable system with a fixed system. My class 2 system's never going to come out. The removable system that's giving her space closure can come in and out. Next slide. So here she is after we consolidated the spaces. The prosthodontist had put some Maryland bridges in. The teeth were starting to separate a little bit because she stopped wearing her aligners. I'm like, what are you doing? You got to wear your aligners still. I was sort of surprised to see the gap opening up even with the Marylands in, but that's what I observed. So, but this is also what I observed. Look at the difference in her profile. Like it's strikingly better, right? So this kid is walking around now with some self-esteem. Her gaps are closed. Her airway for sure is better, okay? Her profile is better. Her lower third is longer. And you can see from the top where I met her to the middle where the Marylands were placed to the bottom, which was about a month ago, which is about 16 months, 17, 18 months since I've met her, maybe a year and a half. She is growing up, filling out. Her profile looks phenomenal, right? But as we say, you can't see what I'm doing. So one of the reasons why this is called Casper, because I'm an old guy, everyone knows Casper the friendly ghost, right? And I was all about you don't see the appliance. So every time we do a project in our practice, and I've been incredibly fortunate to do a lot of projects. Every project always has a code name. So our code name for our class 2 system is Casper, but our code name is going to live in infamy because I think we're keeping the branding. So I think this is really a very nice solution. I have since given her, I've taken out those baby incisors in the lower. We made her kind of like a Krause kind of a concept where those pontics are fixed to Casper's lower member. Okay. And now I say this is Casper number 2, okay, because we've learned a lot about how to design and build this over time. And keep in mind, when I wrote the patent in 2016, metal printing wasn't really optional, right? We were writing for the future. We were talking about theoretically printing materials that didn't exist yet, but I was so convinced that it was going to come. That's how I built the patent. So this is kind of where she's at today. This is a really nice profile. This kid absolutely likes me. Like we get along. She comes in. She's in a good mood. The brother is a patient now. The mom is a patient now. The physician, right? The only one I don't have right now is the dad. And they have a little baby that's 2 years old, which I'm sure when the baby's ready, they'll probably trust me with the baby too. So this is how we roll, right? We build confidence. Next case, also a failed orthodontic case, in treatment for 44 months. I had the lucky pleasure of them transferring to my practice. So this kid transfers into my practice after almost 4 years of orthodontics, fully class 2, okay, 100% overbite, severe hygiene issues, and the parents are like clueless. Like they don't know what's going on. So I had to sit down with the parents and say to them, I'm like, I'm really unhappy with where he's at. Next slide. This is how he transfers to me. You can't even see his lower teeth. So I went ahead and I'm like, let's take the braces off. Let's give him a chance to brush his teeth. Okay. So here's the records we took on him. 9 millimeters of overjet after 44 months. This is what he looks like after we take off his braces. So he's cleaned up a little bit. I explained to him, like, look, I want to try and knock out the overjet first. And I don't know if it's going to work because he's 16 years old already. And, boys the lower jaw is going to grow late, but I don't know if he's going to respond. So I said to him, I'm like, I may leave this thing in for a while if you can tolerate it. And he's like, yeah, it's okay. You know, I'm taking a gap year after I graduate, so I'm good with it. Next slide. So here he is when we installed Casper. One of the things I love about this kid is his hair is getting longer and longer and longer and longer in all my photos, because that's his personality, you know. So here he is at 6 months into Casper. And at that point, I said to him, I'm like, okay, you know, you have this bilateral buccal open bite. It's time for us to start vertically erupting the teeth. I said, would you like braces? And he's like, hell no, I had braces for 44 months. I'm like, great, let's put you in aligners. So I don't know that you have to listen to me about whether he thinks this is a good product or not, but I think Tom can share with us a little video from my friend here. And why don't you listen to him?
Like, I guess 2-3 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, like...
First day was a tough day, right?
First day was an awesome day, actually.
Really?
So it didn't hurt that much.
Uh-huh.
It kind of started hurting for the next week, then it kind of slowed down. Uh-huh. Yeah. It was hard to eat early on, but everything else was easier.
So are you sleeping better?
Yeah, I'm sleeping better. I sing better as well.
You resonate better? That's awesome. Okay.
I don't know. This thing is great. I love it. This is...
So here's a dumb question. You and your brother both have this, right?
Yeah.
Didn't you do a couple years of orthodontics before you met me?
We did, but it was like old orthodontics.
Yeah, it didn't get much done.
Did not get much done.
And how old are you now?
17?
17, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can people even see that this is on your teeth?
No.
No, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also improved my jawline, I think.
It improved your jawline a lot.
It did? Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? Yeah. So it's kind of weird. The hidden thing that I think that I tell people about is they actually breathe better.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a weird thing, like you don't think about it, but like you sleep better probably, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a lot of people that when the jaw's far back, they have a hard time sleeping. You don't really think about it, but once you get this thing on, you're like, yeah, you know, actually I am sleeping better. I love the fact that you're telling me that you like this.
Yeah, I love it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Okay. So we planned 62 stages of aligners for him. Okay, so here's an interesting thing with the amount of tooth movement you need to do. It's really not a lot. If you figure the AP is being handled by Casper, the only thing you're doing is arch development and vertical closing. I happen to use a brand of a clear aligner that is kind of special, that they don't even have to be worn full time. It's the only one in the country like that. But I'm not even plugging that brand right now. I'm just saying, like, as a rule, you can kind of determine how you want to do your clear aligner staging. If you think the moves are really small, you can have them change the tray weekly. You can also wear the tray every 2 weeks and just cut the trays in half. I just said 62 stages because I wanted 62 weeks of wear of the Casper. So here's what he looks like with the aligners on. You can't even see him on, and it's just really, it's great, you know. So I know, like, so this kid had 9 millimeters of overjet. So I have to tell you something about this case. I was afraid I was going to push him too far. So I left him with like 2 or 3 millimeters overjet. I pushed him forward 6 millimeters. We're just now, right now, like last Tuesday, we just talked about taking the scans to replace the lower member to push him forward. So one of the things I hated about Herbst, other than it broke a lot, is the screws strip and like things fall out. So with Casper, when you want to, if you have a very, very large AP change on someone and you bring the jaw forward 8, 9, 10 millimeters, I suggest you break it into pieces, right? And the way I do it is I actually remake and just re-cement the second member, so the lower member. So that's what we're going to be doing with him. But I think this is just a transformative concept, right? Because it can treat problems vertically so well, because I'm establishing vertical from day one, right? And that is the hard thing to do here in class 2 cases, because they're class 2 for a reason, because genetically they just don't grow well. So we're psyching the body out is what we're really doing. And I think it's pretty evident that the change profile-wise is good. The part that you'll hear me say a lot, and I'll repeat this a lot, is that Casper is socks and underpants, meaning keep it clean and don't think about it, because rarely, unless you got a wedgie, do you think about it. So there you go. Next slide, please. Third case is just a standard, 10-year-old class 2 division 1 that you can see in your office every day. Severe overbite, severe overjet, moderate crowding on the lower arch, minimal crowding on the upper arch, crossbite, mixed late mixed dentition, early permanent dentition. Next slide. So here's the Ceph coming out of the cone beam, about 7.5 millimeters overjet. Here's our Panorex showing all the teeth are erupting in nicely. So it's time to get rolling on her. And, it's like, I went to the University of Illinois for training. Like, this is Klein cervical headgear land, but I don't know that Klein cervical headgear does a great job of improving airway, right? I think advancing a mandible does. So when we built it, can you go back one slide? Take a look at no overbite. The overbite's 100%, no teeth show. We install Casper, next slide, and all of a sudden all the lower teeth show. So right out of the gate, I'm changing vertical. You should understand that, right? And we're building these cases so that they're tripoded. They're hitting on their front teeth generally. They're hitting on the back appliance, Casper itself, and they are not touching on the sides, right? That open bite on the buccal segment, that's the secret sauce. When you pull those teeth together, it locks them into their new class 1 position. Next slide. Here she is at 10 weeks. Crazy. Only 10 weeks, she looks older, right? And that's because this is what we're shooting for, right? This is the development we're shooting for. Next slide. You can see the simple expander that I put in these cases. Now, listen, sometimes if you need more arch development, you can put an occlusal rest on the premolar and you can make it more rigid. If you don't want it rigid, you don't have to have that arm moving forward. It's all up to you. It depends on how fast you're going to integrate the braces. I'm not really excited to put braces on these cases for the first 8 to 10 months, sometimes up to a year. I think the longer I wait to put the braces on, the easier it is for them to keep clean. The less I have in their mouth, the longer I can let Casper burn and grow jaw. Next slide. So here she is at 4 months. That's a pretty reasonable change. Next slide. Here she is at 8 months. You can see this is the day I put the braces on. And everything looks okay, and she's kind of coming along. You'll kind of see in the photography, the buccal segments have almost come together already, just because that's what happens. When you open those buccal segments, the teeth start to erupt, because that's what teeth know to do. They feel that they don't have the concept of an opposing tooth, and they'll start erupting again. Next slide. That's her face at 8 months, right? That's her profile at 8 months. This is the day we took Casper off. Now, she's still mentally kind of like holding her jaw forward because she just, whatever. So an interesting story. So I had an orthognathic case in the other day, and she was a severe retrognathic case, and she had a mandibular advancement, and we took teeth out even in order to advance her. She's a very digital person, works in the digital space, and she wears an Apple Watch. Her Apple Watch actually basically told her in metric form, it's tracking her healthcare, and it said to her that she's actually, her gait, her posture, and her walking is better. Her comment to me when she said, I know this sounds crazy, but since I've had my jaw brought forward, I look at people more straight in the eye. I said, there's nothing crazy about that at all. Your TMJ, whether you buy this or not, I 100% believe this. Your posture, your gait, how you hold your head is all related to your TMJ. And when your bite is better, you look more horizontally out. And it's just the reality of it. So what you'll see our patients do, their posture of their head will change over time. Next slide. So this is where she was at 16 months when we took Casper off. Okay. And you see the open bite on the molars, because that's the day I took the appliance off. And now we put braces on her and we start to pull her together. And that vertical eruption of the molars happens very fast because the other teeth are now in contact. Next slide. So here she is. She's about 15 months in. She's in full braces now, right? And now it's just a matter of it's a class 1 case. Close up, get all your, your second molar, marginal ridges, do all that stuff to really get the case nailed down. She should be finished by Christmas of this year. And hopefully in future webinars, I'll show this case, its progress as she wraps up. But I think that's great. Case number 4 is a pipsqueak kid. She's about 7 years old, severe class 2. This is a genetic case. Mom's class 2, she's class 2, her older sister, all class 2. Okay. And she's biting on her palate. So the question is, when is it right and when is it wrong to do Casper? So I wanted to be in there for a while to grow her, but at the time I wasn't able to make Casper, and so I would use a Herbst. But even before I put you in a Herbst, I still think I want to get my width done because I don't like putting too much in my Herbst. I'd rather just have a transpalatal bar versus an RPE because it's too bulky sometimes with the piston arms, and the kids would complain a lot. So we put her through just a quick phase 1. Next slide. So this is how she started, right? Next slide. This is how I wrap up her phase 1. Her teeth are now straight. And to me, now I can build a Herbst on it because now I can put the front teeth together and, and I'll do the Rolo crowns and the piston arms and the whole 9 yards. So this is the results of our limited orthodontics, but you'll notice my orthodontics didn't address the AP at all. So that's what I saved for the Herbst. So I said to the mom, I'm like, look, my experience is severe cases. I don't care how good of a doctor you are. The best orthodontist I've ever met was nature. And if you're a bad grower, the moment our hardware comes off, you become a bad grower again. So I said, I think this may be over a couple of stages here. I don't think I'm going to be able to fix you in a single shot. But I said, let's put you in a Herbst and let's put your daughter in a Herbst and see what happens. So I put her daughter in a Herbst. And the Herbst is on here, and she's been expanded with a phase 1. She's got fixed upper and lower wires. She looks pretty good. Profile wise, she looks great because the piston arms have her advanced. Next slide. Here she is when we took everything off. Kid looks great. She's really happy. Really a nice change. And I'll say this as a parent of 3 kids. If you are a parent and and you're honest with yourself and you have a kid who's kind of funny looking or gawky looking or something's just not quite right, you'll give your every last penny to give your kid the opportunity to feel better about themselves. So this isn't about money or anything else, but it is about doing what's appropriate. That's how I would say this. Next slide. So after 6 months, this is what I see on this kid. Okay. Do you see the overjet coming back? It's not that I didn't do my job right. I'm losing ground, right? So when I started her, and this goes back a while ago, when I started her, Casper wasn't nearly ready yet, right? As I was going from the phase 1 into her Herbst, Casper wasn't ready yet. I take her out and I give her, an upper Hawley and a lower wire, and I'm like, let's see what happens. Well, this is what happened. She's losing ground. She's already at 6 millimeters overjet again. So I'm like, I'm not excited about this. So now, what can you do theoretically to try and hold what you got? So this is our code name is Batman, okay? And Batman won't be to market for a while yet, but I'm showing you how creative we are right now, right? Remember, at the end of the day, I'm an orthodontist in the trenches working 6 days a week, 9 months out of the year. So like this crap just comes out of my head in the middle of the night, and I don't, and I just stay up at night and think and work these things through. This is a removable version of Casper built with a Thoreau design. So it's cut out around the deciduous canine first molar, second molar, which allows the permanent canine and both premolars to erupt without physically affecting the actual Casper model itself. So this is a clear version of Casper. It's 3D printed. It's in a material called AMP, which is active memory polymer. If you go onto Facebook, you look for the AMP Facebook group. I'm one of the co-chairs of it, and you can learn more about this material. This is a super special material. But I would tell you that when you look at how she started and you look at her today, you have to say to yourself, wow, that's impressive, right? This kid looks really fantastic. And I think if you're the parents, your thought as the parent is, yeah, this is good. My kid feels good about themselves. We're winning, right? The next kid I want to show you is also a failed case. I'm meeting him at 18 years old. He was in the largest clear aligner manufacturer in the world, has an AP appliance system called MA. And he was in that system. And he is being sent to me by the sleep apnea person at the University of Chicago who's at his wit's end because kid can't tolerate a CPAP and he doesn't want to put him through surgery and he's got severe apnea and sometimes apnea has nothing to do with whether you're heavy or not, if you don't understand that. And he still has about 80% overbite and he's leaving for college. And he's like, he's a nice enough guy. This is his Ceph taken out of our cone beam. And the doctor asked me, he's like, you usually have a couple tricks up to your sleeve. Do you have any idea, what you can do to help this kid? Now, I had never done this before, but I'm like, yeah, I have a trick up my sleeve. I can try. So this is his Panorex. So this is his airway assessment prior to me touching him. So he's a very flat airway right around the second and third vertical vertebrae in his neck. And you can see it really pinches quite closed. So his problem is mostly anatomical, okay? So one answer for the apnea here potentially could be mechanical. If you can just hold him forward, maybe he'll breathe better. Next slide. So we designed the Casper concept to be put into a full aligner that was printed in AMP, which is that active memory polymer. And this is what it looked like in design, in theory, right? Next slide. This is what it looks like in the mouth. And I think what's interesting about it, I think we have one more slide behind this, right? Yep. So what's interesting about this is like, there's a whole lot of other problems now you have to figure out, like how to support the member components of Casper so that they won't break over time, because this is going to fatigue. Now, AMP is a very specific material. If you drop it in boiling water for 3 minutes, it will rejuvenate the material and it'll take its original shape again. So whereas 60% of all removable sleep apnea appliances cause tooth movement, I will tell you that you won't necessarily see this with the design that we are working on, because not only do we rejuvenate the material daily before the patient puts it back on, but we have control four-dimensionally, meaning of the thickness of the tray, not just of the shape of the tray. So this is just really, really great stuff. And as you can see from his profile, again, nobody knows what I'm doing. He's only wearing this at bedtime. He's been very successful with it. We're almost a year into it now with him and doing quite well. So I'm really excited to tell you that it's pretty easy for us to nest this stuff. And the part that's so powerful for me is the fact that we can put this on our print farm within the office and we can knock these things out in 1 hour and 15 minutes. So when I tell you there's about $7 worth of material in this appliance, and we can probably conceivably can sell it for about $3,000, the ROI is off the scale. Okay. So, and that's not why I'm showing you this, but I'm just telling you, like, there's a lot of creativity here. So the question really is, okay, I love this concept, right? It really is interesting. What are its limits? It's Mission Impossible, my favorite kid. Okay, so this is a class 2 division 1. This is a kid that I actually took braces off during COVID because she was born with a condition called hemifacial microsomy. She's a grade 3, meaning she does not, above the gonial angle of her right mandible, she is nothing. She doesn't have a coronoid notch. She doesn't have a coronoid. She doesn't have a condyle. She has nothing. And, you know, she's made it to 8th grade, no problem, just with a kind of a crooked jaw. So I took her braces off because I started her in 6th grade. I had her in braces for about 2.5 to 3 years. Her teeth were straight. Her hygiene was off the hook bad. And I looked at her straight in the face. I was really mad at her. It was during COVID. And I looked at her. I'm like, what's the point of straightening your teeth out? If you're going to bomb them out, I'm going to have to pull them out. And I pulled her braces off on the fly, you know, because I wasn't getting anywhere. It was a valuable learning lesson for me, which I've unfortunately learned a couple times, more than once, that, you know, I might have the will and determination to fix somebody, but if I don't have a willing participant, it doesn't help anybody. So this is how she presents to us. It's beyond a severe overbite. She's biting on her palate, and she's rotated completely to the right side because of the lack of the condyle. So we designed an asymmetrical Casper, which would create the vertical dimension that she needed to be at. And then remember, I work in a craniofacial center, right? Because I'm still here. I got my scrubs on right here, right? You know, and so I have a very talented surgeon, and the plan was that we would remove a rib from her back and do a rib graft to establish a condyle that she's never had. And it's not going to really be a condyle, but it's something she can function on. So there, if you read in the literature about rib grafts, you know, there's reasons why they fail. Sometimes it's, you know, because they have too much pressure put upon them. And this is a concept that I really believe in. And I was talking it through with her and her mom and my surgeon. I'm like, look, I really think this is a good idea because it'll give you an opportunity to heal a little bit easier. It's going to be a little tough, you know, but we'll get through it. And once we're through the tough part, I think, you know, I don't know what to expect, but I'm expecting things will be better than they are, you know? So this is really out of the box thinking. So this is kind of establishing the growth that she never had because she's missing that part of the jaw. Next slide. So when she came in after about, this was about 8-9 weeks after they did the rib graft, you can see that she had an incredible amount of symmetry in her face that she didn't have before. It's not perfect, but pretty good symmetry now. And the whole bottom third of her face is longer because we established the vertical components that she was missing in the actual Casper appliance itself. And then once we knew that was okay, we established it permanently by putting a rib in its place to function like the mandible. So this is a world's first, you know, and I'll be talking more about this case at the CLEF 2025 meeting in Japan if you happen to come. Next slide. But this is the part that you must pay attention to. Okay, the volumetric airway, okay, meaning the amount of space in her airway, at the smallest point in the airway was 1 cubic millimeter. The volumetric cavity, same spot, which is around C4 on her, fourth vertebrae down. The same spot post-operatively, we calculated through Dolphin, the volumetric airway is approximately 630 cubic millimeters. So her airway got established, like, period. You know, and I said to her specifically, I'm like, you know, how are you sleeping now? She's like, oh my God. She's like, I sleep great now, you know, and next slide. You know, so the picture on the left represents what she looked like when we were talking about doing stuff. The picture in the middle has arch bars on because we had to put arch bars on her in the OR in order to confirm that the bite was in the right place. The picture on the right is, you can see Casper in the back, but the picture on the right is showing you photos from about maybe 3 weeks ago. What I want you to pay attention to, nope, stay on this picture for a second. Look at the image in the middle and find the midline on the 2 front teeth and go to your left to look at the upper left canine. And now look at the upper left it's the upper left canine. It's the upper right canine. It's on the left side of the image. And now look at the picture on the right. Look at that same canine, the upper right canine, which is on the left side of the image. Look at it. It's completely in contact now with the opposing canine. So those 2 teeth completely erupted together, vertically supporting their face. So even if the rib graft fails, right? Even if Casper's taken out, you now have teeth supporting the structure of what we're trying to achieve. By the way, the rib graft isn't failing. The rib graft looks great. Next slide. So you be the judge. Look at her smiling today in the blue sweatshirt and look at her when she started the case. Wouldn't you feel good about being the person that helped her achieve this? I mean, this is off the hook good. This is something that's never been achievable before. And I'm learning right now. I'm not telling you I have any of the answers. I have some, but I have a lot of questions right now. And I want to take this concept and blow it up and change the world. Because if 30% of the world is class 2, I think this is incredibly effective at fixing those 30%. So we'll see how that goes. Next slide. So this is a concept, right? It's not a single thing. It's incredibly complex to understand and design, but we've done it. So now the train is on the track, and what we're releasing right now, or we're about to release, is the chrome cobalt version of Casper. The top picture shows it integrated with any bracket you want. The middle picture shows it integrated with any clear aligner you want. I'm agnostic. I don't care what brand that you want to use it with. I hope in the future, one of the big brands kind of puts their arms around us and really kind of says like, hey, this is really unbelievable. We want to change the world with you, because there is nothing short of this is 100% innovation. Okay. There's nothing like this ever been created. The bottom image is the part that I'm most excited about, because that's actually showing you the potential of what this can do with clear aligners. Okay. And the clear aligner world is what's growing the fastest right now. But you and I both know that really the concept of fixing AP with clear aligners hasn't gone very well so far. And there's a couple of unicorns out there that maybe know how to do it, but the majority of the people that have tried it have bombed out. Or, it's like you have to do the AP, then you kind of take the AP component off and you got to rebuild all your aligners and redo the trays again. This is efficient. This is kind of keeping your car in your lane and doing stuff as you need to do it. So I think as a removable device, this is pretty unchallenged. It can be like its own thing. Like there's never been anything like it, And by the way, we don't have to print this just in amp. We can also print it in a flex night guard resin as well, which I've done and I wear to bed every night. Or we can even mill it and make it as a retainer, just like a twin block. So there are a lot of ways that this can be manufactured. There are a lot of ways that this can be administered. What I'm excited for is the fact that there's just an untapped potential here, right? So, which leads us to our next slide. What's next for this project, right? We want to hear from you guys. I hope everybody weighs in a little bit, because the more people that talk to us, the better we're going to understand how to respond. Does this look real? Is this interesting? Do you think it would make sense to come and do a hands-on 3-hour, 4-hour workshop in the ODL space with me? What kind of auxiliaries can we incorporate into this? I mean, because there's anything's possible, right? Would you like to see this sold as a whole package? Aligners with the Casper all in a single box. What do you need in your offices? Would you like a type it on? Would you like to see a video? Would you like to see more memes of me, which I think are absolutely hysterically funny? I'll leave that to the marketing guys. But I think from here, I'm going to let Tom kind of close it out and kind of field your questions. I hope we have some people watching. I have no idea if people are on or not.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Watching, so that's great. So thanks,
okay,
everyone.
That's good. Yeah.
We do have some questions that I feel like we have some time to get to.
Fantastic.
Let's talk. We have a couple questions here about advancement, and we've talked about this. Is it adjustable to gradually advance the mandible? And then VJ also asked the same question. So what are your thoughts on advancement for this appliance?
So like I said, I don't, this is not Herbst where you're pinching a little ring on the piston. There are no moving parts on this thing. There are no screws to strip. Anything that's adjustable says to me it's breakable, okay? And that's not necessarily comfortable. So because we're talking about, like, I just showed you, correcting 10 millimeters of AP, right? And like I showed you an 8 millimeter correction that's going to be done in under 24 months. So what I would say is this: I feel it's faster and easier to really keep this thing fully custom made. So you can order Casper with 2 lower members. A stage 1 is stage 2. And when you hit month 6 to month 8, you just cut off stage 1 and you just re-cement stage 2. And that'll take you that next 2 to 3 millimeters so they're back edge to edge. To me, that is going, and we've tested it several ways. That's the way that's been very successful in my hands. And it's been the most predictable. I've had, in 3.5 years, I've had 2 members come loose, and that's it. And we're about at 100 plus cases right now. So it's not like we have 1 or 2 or 3 of these things. I mean, I wouldn't even do the webinar until I hit the number 100, which was this year. So now that we're at the point where we have a volume that's critical, it makes a lot of sense for us to figure out if there's a better way to advance it. We know how to make it adjustable. I'm not in favor of it because anything that's adjustable can be stripped. Anything that's adjustable can be broken. I like the idea of the 3D printed metal because it's incredibly well finished. These guys are incredibly good at making sure the things are smooth. The other thing I didn't talk about, and you should have maybe thought about, is, hey, I know when people do Herbst appliances, the lower incisors flare out. Well, when you get down to the nuts and bolts about the Casper system, what you're going to see is on the lower member, we have a really special design where Casper sits below the CJ, and it's less likely to ever force any of the teeth to flare. So these are the things that I think will be kind of borne out as we finish cases and we see the final results.
Nice. Greg also asks, are there arch wire tubes? You probably can't really see through this camera, but yeah, they're integrated right into the Casper itself. So they don't need to be welded onto the side of it. They're right, embedded.
It goes right through the actual physical appliance. Yeah.
So Vivian asks, if you're not putting braces on for up to 12 months, how do you prevent lower incisor proclination during mandibular advancement?
Vivian, I just answered your question. My appliance doesn't flare the teeth. You're moving the jaw forward. The tongue's got plenty of room. There's no pressure on the lower incisor, so why would it move forward? Casper sits below the lower incisor. It's one of my secrets.
Greg also asks, can we bond brackets upper lower 5 to 5? Is it good for all types of class 2?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
By the way, I have probably 7 types of brackets in my practice. So I have everything incorporated with this thing right now.
And then we'll end with this one here, or maybe we have 2 more here. So Kevin's a little bit beyond my head, but beautiful work you're doing. One question: might you agree with McNamara, Bishara, and others who claim that a distal step primary second molar relationship in a 3 to 5-year-old will always progress to a full class 2 dental skeletal malocclusion in the mixed and or permanent dentition if no intervention is initiated upon earliest recognition? It's a mouthful.
Kevin Boyd. I love Kevin Boyd. Yes, I agree with Kevin. So this is why there's different versions of this appliance, right? So I think what I've learned doing craniofacial for 35 years is tough problems are tough problems, right? So I only want to be fixed in metal at certain points. Like when someone's 10 to 13 years old, I want to be fixed in metal. As a twin block concept for bed, I think Casper for bed makes a ton more sense than a twin block, because our design allows for eruption of teeth and for exfoliation of teeth. So in this scenario, what I would tell you is our code name is Batman. Batman's been doing incredibly well. We've had nothing but success with it. And again, I think the idea here isn't bad or good. I think the idea is you have to manage these problems over a very long period of time. And it's not a one stop concept here. You may go from a fixed version of it to a removable version of it. The idea that I like about the fixed metal more than anything else is my kids actually forget it's in. And if you literally talk to some of these kids, they will tell you like, yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. It bothers them at the beginning. And I think the ones that have the most trouble are the ones that start in braces and I screwed up and like I didn't really realize we were full class 2. And then all of a sudden, like we deprogram and then all of a sudden they fall back and their class 2 just got 3 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 5 millimeters worse. That's when I'm like, oh God, I completely blew it, and it doesn't happen too often, but it's happened we have 2 or 3 of those cases in our 100 or so. So I think class 2 is just genetically hard to fix, right? And if someone is genetically class 2, the moment you take your pressure off, they're going to fall back because they're a bad grower. So we just switch gears and we just go from fixed to removable. I think picking when to choose somebody to start is a tough spot, right? We'll get in early if someone's having airway issues, 100%, and I'm not opposed to discussing, how early can you get in? Because I don't really have that answer. Kevin, you probably know more than I do because you do more of this and you have a PhD in anthropology on this. But I think from our end, the only goal I'm telling you here is this is a new concept. It's incredibly good on airway. We've got lots and lots and lots of data to prove that. And that's easy to prove. The last kid was craniofacial, so that's real. I mean, like that correction is 100% real. And by the way, she's going into braces, having a Lefort to tip the maxilla down to level everything. So she's got work ahead of her. So again, this is a tool. It's one tool of many. And my hope is that if we get enough people kind of starting to test this concept, use it appropriately, which I don't say that lightly, I think there's a lot of potential learning here for many of us. And I think the goal should be that we try to make, our profession better any way we can. For subdivision cases, how do you ever place the Casper arm on just one side? That's not an option. You can't place one arm. I don't know that on a subdivision case, it's the right appliance, right? Because you might need to distalize a molar first so that maybe they're at least parallel, right? And then you can do Casper. But I don't think on a subdivision case, there's so many reasons why it could be subdivision, but you could have early loss of a tooth, you could have asymmetry, you could have a wonky looking maxilla, for whatever. But I think that is something I probably wouldn't go excited. I'm only really doing full step class 2s. Your second question, thanks Charles, is how are patients tolerating the comfort of the buccal portion in comparison to Herbst? Very well. All I can say is very well. Even the kids that walk out of the office like bleary eyed and crying because it's a hard day to put stuff in. They'll come. We bring them back within 14 days. Like, how are you doing? And there's one kid specifically who will be in our future presentations. Like he he had a really, really tough time the day we put stuff on, and but he was verbal with me, which was great. And he was talking to me like the whole first week. I really probably have notes on this conversation. And by day 10, he's like, oh, he goes, I figured it out. I'm good today. And that was it. And he never complained afterwards. And, I think that's what happens. We tell people it's about a 2-week period where they're uncomfortable. And after they kind of get used to the idea of they're just being held forward, it's weird because you have to actually let Casper function effectively like your TMJ. And there's a lot of radiuses built into the ramps and the curves to make sure that the ball tracks and the bean tracks in a certain manner to protect you from like kind of skipping out. But unlike like a MARA where you can kind of get locked backwards, you can't get locked backwards if this is made right. It's impossible. And the ramps aren't too long so that if you bite, you impinge yourself. Like that doesn't happen anymore. We've been pretty sophisticated about how we've created a whole checks and balance system of you kind of weighing in. You gotta check in on a 3D checker and actually say, yes, I approve this stage before Casper goes to the next manufacturing stage. So there's a lot to this. Like you have to be incorporated in the building process so that you literally are in charge, right? There's never been anything like this. Could this be something that could be generically put into a kit format? The answer is yes. Do I think manufacturers want to do that? The answer is, I don't know. Let's ask American, let's ask Ormco, let's ask 3M Unitech, let's ask, GC America. But I think the answer is going to be no, because, I think most of the fixed appliance market is like, they are just fighting for every case they can get right now, because now that, there's cases out there that are custom between Dibs and Lightforce and KLO and other kind of, for just a little bit more, you can get custom made or semi-custom made. I think, all that's happening is, the doctors are going from one camp to another, but I don't see the fixed market really growing a lot. I will say this, I think the fixed market is finally getting a little traction back from the clear aligner market, in the sense that like it took a hit because everybody went to clear aligners. And then I think, after a while, all these GPs that are doing clear aligners, a lot of them don't do a great job and the cases failed. And we all know someone or 100 people where like clear aligner therapy didn't work. And it's that happens, and a lot of times clear aligner therapy fails for lots of reasons. And I'm not going to get into that. But the truth of the matter is, I built a concept that's going to work with both. And I think that if you have like a class 2 division 1 case, that might theoretically be an aligner case with Casper. It may not be fixed metal. You just have to open your brain up a little bit, because then you can do sequential distalization in an aligner, even though Casper is attached to it. So there is just a whole lot of stuff here to talk about. The only thing that we're really focusing on right now that's ready to go is the chrome cobalt 3D printed metal appliance that can have or not have a TP bar and expander, stuff like that. And it integrates very nicely with aligners from 5 to 5. So if you want to do aligners, you can still do aligners with it. And I've got a bunch of those cases going, so I'll be happy to share those with time. But as you know, fixing class 2 takes 2 to 3 years. So this has been an incredibly quick learning curve for us, and we're making great strides, and we're writing code every week about automating the printing and all that other stuff. But there's just lots and lots and lots of hurdles. And by the way, I have a daytime job. I have 3 of them actually. So, I'll give it back to these guys. They're the lab. I don't know, but I think it's been a fun project for all of us.
Oh, it's been amazing. Yeah. Just the change in the patients. We were actually in Chicago the day that the last patient had her Casper placed. So that was experiential for me and Mike and TJ. That was great to see. And just what a beautiful young girl, it's great to see that change. So two closing things. Yes, we will send first, the number one closing things. I want to thank you, Dr. Neal, for being here with us. It's been a pleasure.
It's a partnership.
Totally. And this recording, so if you know anyone or you want to show your staff, this is going to go out sometime tomorrow. at the latest early Friday, we'll have this recording out. And then if you did want to set up a meeting, start talking about this more in depth with either TJ or set up a meeting with Sarah, I have that link all the way at the top right here. So, or you can just go onto our website, odlortho.com, and you can go to the Get Started tab and figure out how to contact us there. So call, text us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thanks.
Thank you. Bye.